We're on the Mexican side right now of the Rio Grande. That's the river that separates this country from the United States. And we're here because more than 10,000 people, most of them Haitian, have crossed this river to get to the United States and establish a sort of makeshift camp, wanting to be given asylum and to be able to stay in the United States. Many of them traveled through South and Central America to get to this point. They're fleeing poverty and years of political turmoil and natural disasters back home.
I'm really scared. You know why? Haiti had an earthquake. We were left with nothing. No home, no food, nothing. Almost all my family died. And if we don't go across, where are we going to go? We don't have a home. That's why we're searching for a better future.
The flow of Haitians crossing to the United States at this point suddenly turned into a torrent over the last week or two. But now it's slowed again. People have heard the plans from the US government to fly many in the camp back home.
We're scared that if we cross, they'll just deport us back to Haiti, and it will be worse for us.
Those we did see crossing the river were mainly bringing food and water to those on the other side. I asked this man how people were doing on the other side.
They're okay, but sad, because maybe tomorrow they'll be deported.
Conditions in the camp are reportedly tough, with not enough food, toilets or water, but we couldn't verify that. Earlier in the day, we tried to enter the camp via the front door in Texas. We just tried to get into the camp via the US entry, and we were denied there. We now just crossed the river and tried to get in through this entry port, and we've just been denied by the border patrolmen that you can see behind me, who say that we're not allowed in. Other journalists said the same. The US authorities are blocking the media from talking to those inside. Meanwhile, they're faced with a problem that would test any administration. A makeshift shantytown suddenly springing up on their border.
Several flights a day to expel Haitian migrants. That's how the Biden administration is planning on addressing the recent surge in the number of migrants from Haiti crossing into the United States. The announcement by the Department of Homeland Security is meant to alleviate some of the pressure on the small town of Del Rio, Texas, by the Mexico border, a small town that has seen a huge rise in the number of migrants crossing into the United States, and which lacks the capacity to hold and to process so many people at one time, which is why we've seen those scenes of thousands of migrants living under a bridge. And that's why also you had DHS announcing that they had actually moved 2,000 of those migrants to other locations on Friday, and that by Monday there would be 400 agents on the ground to help with processing. But the announcement by DHS also had another overarching message: deterring migrants from making the trip to the United States in the first place, a message that was very clear in the DHS statement. Our borders are not open and people should not attempt the dangerous journey.
The crisis at the border in Del Rio continues. Tens of thousands of migrants camping out under their international bridge. Del Rio's port of entry shut down to all travel.
And tonight, the federal government is trying desperately to get that situation under control. Today, the Department of Homeland Security releasing a 6-point strategy.
The Night Team's John Paul Baraja breaks down the plan and how local leaders are dealing with the situation.
The small town of Del Rio has a population of around 35,000. Underneath their international bridge, they have nearly half of that, with 14,600 migrants waiting to be processed, with more on the way. A Valverde County commissioner says the makeshift camp is like walking through a third world country.
It is sad that our government has put not just our community, but these people in a situation like that. It is inexcusable. This is not humane.
Bo Nettleton got that first-hand look on Wednesday. Since, resources like water, towels, and portable toilets have been sent, but thousands more migrants have continued to arrive, forcing the federal government to shut down all travel through the Del Rio port of entry with little to no warning.
You have to start turning around, us.
This was the scene Friday. A line of cars, many of which were Mexican nationals who work in the U.S., stuck in Del Rio. On the other side, U.S. nationals stuck in Acuña, Mexico.
I don't blame just one side or the other. Both sides are at fault. We've been dealing with this for years and years and years. Both sides have had control. It is time to end this.
Today, Saturday, DHS sent out their 6-point plan for the crisis Del Rio is facing. Their 3 main points. 1, within the next 2 days, 400 agents will be sent to help process all the migrants, and more will be sent if needed. 2, Border Patrol will be relocating migrants to try and reduce the strain. Roughly 2,000 have already been moved. And 3, DHS will accelerate and increase removal flights.
I know that they're working on trying to get the mayor in Acuna to stop the influx into Acuna. We're not having that result here, so that's why you see what we have here today.
And County Commissioner Nettleton also told us the Del Rio Port of Entry will remain closed until all of those migrants are processed. For those stuck on either side, their only option right now is to go to another port of entry like Eagle Pass and cross there. John Paul Barajas, KSAT 12 News.
Thank you, John Paul. Meanwhile, District 23 Congressman Tony Gonzalez releasing a statement today on the bridge closure there in Del Rio. He says in part, quote, since my visit on Thursday morning, numbers have increased from 8,000 to 14,000 people. Border Patrol agents are doing everything they can, but it's clear they need more support and they need it now, end quote. For all the latest on this developing story, you can always head to ksat.com.
I know on this show we often say that we are bringing you the stories the so-called mainstream press and woke political establishment don't want you to hear about or see. Well, have a look at this extraordinary footage that Fox News obtained from Del Rio, Texas, on the southern border of the United States, where thousands and thousands of illegal migrants, mostly Haitians trying to make their way into the United States via Mexico, have been streaming in every single day.
Stunning footage out of Del Rio, Texas on Thursday as our Fox flight team drone shows thousands of migrants crammed under the international bridge, waiting to be processed after crossing illegally into the United States. Our drone spotted masses of migrants crossing from Ciudad Acuna, Mexico, over a dam in the Rio Grande and into the United States illegally. They then stream into Del Rio via a dirt path, hundreds coming by the hour with more on the way every day.
Scenes like this have been repeated across the border for months now, pretty much ever since the Biden administration loosened Trump-era policies demanding that would-be migrants be processed in Mexico on that side of the border, and instead returned to the failed catch-and-release policies of the bad old days, where migrants are released into communities without so much as a COVID test and only on a promise of showing up to a hearing at some later date. Well, actions have consequences. In August, the U.S. Border Patrol recorded over 208,000 so-called encounters with would-be migrants. This was the second month in a row that figure was over 200,000 encounters. Keeping in mind for that every known, quote, encounter, there may be 2 or 3 more who slip in with no contact at all. And here's the kicker. That 208,000 figure represents an increase of 317% from the previous August when a certain bad orange man was in the Oval Office. Well, hope and change, right? So, what did the Biden administration choose to do about this disaster? Well, faced with the bad optics of drone footage that revealed the extent of the crisis at the border, they didn't decide to change tack or get tough or even, God help us, end the insane policies that have created this mess. No. Officials got on the phone to the Federal Aviation Administration and had them issue a temporary ban on drone flights in the area. But here's where it gets really good. This didn't thwart the Fox News journalists from getting the footage. They simply got themselves a chopper, and not just one hired by the company, but one provided by local law enforcement. You know, the people who have to deal with the mess created by Biden's policies so they could show the world what is going on. Have a look at this.
Look at the mass of people down there. This time 2 days ago, there were just over 4,000 people. There are now upwards of 11,000. We are talking nearly a tripling of the numbers. That Mexican town that you're looking across the river, that is Ciudad Acuna. That is the Mexican city where all these migrants are gathering. And you can see they're using this dam right here to walk across the Rio Grande and enter the United States illegally. They then use a dirt path that's right below us, and they stream into the international bridge area.
Again, as I say, any government, any regime faced with this sort of crisis pretty much has 2 options. They can either act to do something about it, or they can simply try to stop you from finding out about it. Guess which option the Biden administration chose? That they chose to try and hide it is pretty telling. That local cops are now helping the press expose it is even more so.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration has now started to chalk out a plan to send back the Haitian migrants who've gathered in Texas, and the Americans want to send them back to their homeland. According to reports, the Department of Homeland Security will begin deporting planes to send back the Haitian migrants. The plan is meant to relieve the migrant influx at the South Texas border town of Del Rio. It also aims to deter more Haitians from coming to the United States through illegal means. The Department of Homeland Security has said in a statement that it moved nearly about 2,000 migrants out of Del Rio to other locations on Friday for processing and also possible removal from the United States. It also aims to bring in about 400 additional officers in the area to assist in the deportation process. Satellite images released on Saturday showed thousands of Haitians gathered under a bridge in Del Rio after suddenly crossing into the United States from Mexico. The number of migrants in Del Rio has surged in the past week, putting excessive pressure on the local government. Del Rio's Mayor Bruno Lozano has said that more than 14,000 Haitians are currently camping out under the bridge and are awaiting processing. Authorities have also ramped up efforts to provide adequate supplies to the migrants living under the bridge.
We have much more resources that are being delivered to the Del Rio area, including state and federal equipment, manpower, logistical support. We're going to be seeing even more buses loading up here and taking them to other stations.
Meanwhile, migrants who are seeking to escape poverty and hunger in their home country have said that they will not be deterred by U.S. plans to send them back.
Porque Dios no quiere deportado. Si Dios deportado agora, Dios vai morrer Haití, porque não tem seguridad. Haití, só bandido. Tem guerra civil todo dia. Guerra civil com polícia, com bandido. Polícia está fazendo guerra civil com polícia. Muito complicado, porque não tem dirigir Haití, não tem nada.
Now to the crisis at the border. The Biden administration is announcing its plans to deal with the massive number of Haitians in Del Rio. The Department of Homeland Security says it plans to ramp up deportation flights to send thousands back to Haiti. Plans have not yet been finalized, but officials are considering 5 to 8 flights a day that would begin Sunday. As of today, nearly 15,000 migrants have gathered under and around the Del Rio International Bridge, waiting to be processed. Some families have been living there for as long as 6 days in unsanitary conditions. 2 women have given birth, and there are reportedly more migrants traveling through Mexico by bus. It's still unclear how such a large number amassed so quickly.
I've never seen a migrant population explode so quickly on the immediate border area.
Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz is talking about the 14,000 migrants seeking asylum in Del Rio. Saturday, the Department of Homeland Security temporarily closed the Del Rio port of entry, and more CBP agents got to the area. Migrants are walking through the knee-deep waters of the Rio Grande and building makeshift tents out of sticks, moms carrying their kids in 100-degree weather. These images are hard for Josephine Duviela St. Seren to watch.
We're horrified.
She's the president of Dallas Haitians United and says the humanitarian crisis at the border was building up over time. First, there was the assassination of Haiti's president earlier this summer. Then, a magnitude 7.2 earthquake devastated the Caribbean country.
They're not just here just for their pleasure. You know, they're looking for a better life because they're at a point where they're losing hope for what's going on in their own country.
She's looking for ways to help those seeking asylum at the border.
Are you facing some challenges?
There's Homeland Security, there's Border Patrol there. And we don't know, would we be allowed, to even get close enough for us.
Friday, Governor Greg Abbott was in Fort Worth, signing a bill that would put nearly $2 billion toward border security in Texas. He said they're providing barriers to stop migrants from crossing.
We, as state officials, have an obligation to make sure that we use the National Guard, we use DPS, we use law enforcement at every level to de-escalate the tension. around that bridge to make sure that we keep our state and our community safe.
U.S. officials are moving to expel these asylum seekers, announcing plans to fly them back to their homeland. The first set of flights back to Haiti will start taking off on Sunday. In Dallas, I'm Adriana De Alba.
We're starting off today with the migrant surge in Del Rio worsening over the weekend. More than 13,000 migrants are living under the Del Rio International Bridge. President Biden says he'll start sending the mostly Haitian asylum seekers back to Haiti as early as tomorrow, and the Coast Guard has already moved more than 2,000 migrants to different checkpoints. Many are survivors from last month's earthquake and are seeking asylum. Families have pitched tents under the international bridge, Del Rio. Mexican authorities have kicked Haitians off buses, but they continue towards the border on foot. The situation is expected to get worse before it gets better.
By air, we get to see the size of the crowd crammed under the Del Rio International Bridge. From the ground, a look at the living conditions. Tents made out of trash bags or dried palm leaves are the only protection from today's triple-digit heat.
Our agents are outnumbered.
Raul Ortiz, a native of Del Rio, leads the U.S. Border Patrol. He just walked through this camp today.
We've never seen a migrant population explode so quickly on the immediate border area like we saw over the last 72 hours. We've got roughly over 13,000 migrants from various demographics.
Most are from Haiti, the Associated Press, following their journey through the jungles of South and Central America. Haitians are fleeing their unstable country. Political turmoil and a decade of natural disasters have wiped away infrastructure, resources, and jobs. Tonight, the U.S. government has temporarily closed the Del Rio border bridge. People will need to drive an hour away to Eagle Pass in order to cross in and out of the U.S. It's the latest attempt to funnel more federal agents to this camp. Buses are coming too.
We're going to be running these buses 24/7, and I'm confident that, within the next 3 to 4 days, we can make a serious dent in the population.
Local leaders are hopeful. With more than 13,000 migrants staged less than 2 miles from town, there's fear of a stampede or riot.
From my perspective, we need to do everything we can to manage the safety and security of the migrants, the community, and of course our agents.
A humanitarian crisis at the border pushed to never-before-seen limits.
And as the dire situation continues there at the Mexico-U.S. border, local calls for immigration reform are growing. David Gonzalez has more on how local activists are teaming up all across Texas.
There may not be many of them, but a small group of people is fighting to bring attention to the struggles millions of immigrants in this country face every day.
So today we say no more, and today as Texans, we stand together to call for attention, to call for justice, and to call for a resolve for our lives, because we can't keep living months at a time.
Cesar Espinosa with Fiel, an immigrant rights organization, and Texas Organizing Project, which works to give people of color the power and representation they deserve, hit the road from Houston to Austin Saturday morning.
This is a major step for the Hispanic community because we've been living in the shadows for over more than 20 years already.
Along the way, the caravan is raising their voices against what they call Governor Greg Abbott's attack on immigrants.
With this proposal for a pathway to citizenship, not only for essential workers, for farm workers, DACA recipients, and TPS holders, opens the door for many families to fix their immigration status.
The group wants to see lawmakers carve a pathway to citizenship. Damaris Gonzalez with TOP says the immigrant community went through a lot of challenges during the Trump administration. Gonzalez says it's extra important because immigrant families have been some of the most affected during the pandemic.
Not only because they are, the ones that are getting sick, but also because they're losing their jobs, they're losing their income.
And off the top tonight, we're following some breaking news.
Reports of migrants coming ashore on Miami Beach. Let's get right to Local 10's Joseph Ojo live on the scene with the latest. Joseph, we're hearing a lot of agencies are assisting in this tonight, right?
Yes, that is so right. Multiple agencies. There was Miami-Dade Police, Miami Beach Police, as well as Coast Guard and Border Patrol. We can also show you right now that boat that brought in those possible migrants are still here right now along the shore. We're told that from witnesses that people jumped off of that boat and then after took off into the main street area.
Only in Miami.
As Scott Kobrick was meditating on the beach Saturday night, he tells us that this boat with possible migrants came racing to shore.
And all of a sudden I see a boat speeding into the coast, and into the beach.
In this cell phone video he grabbed, you can see that as the boat nears shore, a number of people can be seen jumping from the boat and taking off running.
All of a sudden the boat pulls up and a bunch of people jump out, about 10 or so people, and start sprinting. Some of them ran over onto that pathway. Some ran under these ropes.
From above, cell phone video capturing a police helicopter circling the area.
They had the spotlight on them, and once the spotlight was on them, they were running.
And on the ground, our cameras captured a Border Patrol vehicle, as well as a massive police presence near 24th Street and Collins Avenues. We are told by witnesses that at least 7 men were seen running off the boat and into the Main Street area, but police have not said whether they have detained any migrants.
Well, we have laws, you know. As sad as it is, and as much as I feel bad for these people, we're a nation of laws.
And so no word yet on when this boat will be moved from this area near the shore here along Miami Beach at 24th Street and Collins Avenue. But we can tell you that Miami Beach Police did confirm with us that this is a possible migrant landing and that they are assisting the Border Patrol as well as Coast Guards. We do know that they did have aviation above too as well, helping out with searching for these possible migrants. But we can tell you that also when we were here, we did see that large presence as was mentioned in the package, but we did not see anybody taken into custody throughout the day that we saw. But once we get any more information on this, we will be sure to keep you updated. We're on Miami Beach. I'm Joseph Ojo, Local 10 News.